Bienvenidos a Zoom F7, en esta ocasión les tenemos preparado un video muy especial. Antes de comenzar me gustaría invitarlos a nuestro Patreon, ya que así nos ayudarían a mejorar nuestro contenido. Resulta que hace un par de meses salió una convocatoria para que pudiéramos acudir a un evento de Pixar, en el que iba a estar Ed Catmull, director de la compañía, y Lee Unkrich, director de Coco. La convocatoria consistía en escribir una carta en la que explicáramos cuál era nuestra película favorita de Pixar y por qué. Pude llevar mi cámara y grabar fragmentos de la conferencia. Hay información muy valiosa de los orígenes, al igual que nosotros o al igual que gente que está empezando. Ellos también tuvieron sus errores, ellos también tuvieron que fracasar muchas veces para poder llegar a donde están, y creo que es importante ver a una empresa que nosotros creemos que siempre ha sido exitosa y escuchar en qué fallaban y cuáles eran las complicaciones que tenían cuando empezaron. Y creo que también es muy necesario escuchar algunos datos sobre cómo fue el proceso de realización de Coco. Es gente muy preparada, es gente que sabe muchas cosas. Me sorprendió su nivel de pragmatismo y creo que es mejor que ustedes mismos los escuchen de viva voz. Así que sin más preámbulos, comencemos.
In our earliest times, we were kind of handcrafting one film at a time. There wasn't this vision of, well, there was probably a vision then, but the reality was not that we had multiple projects going. And so the benefit of that is that all of the sharpest creative minds at the studio could work on one film at a time, and we were a very tight team. Our skills complemented each other very well, and we were able to make these movies that proved to be successful and people enjoyed. But over time, as the company grew, many of us wanted to start spreading our wings and doing our own things creatively, but the studio also needed that to happen because it wasn't sustainable for us to just make one movie at a time every few years. We needed to make more movies, and to make more movies, we had to all start working on separate projects, which was great for us personally, because we got to kind of flex our creative muscles and bring new stories to the screen. But the downside of that was that we were very separated from each other. We didn't have that safety net of all being together all day, every day, working on one movie at a time. So what we developed over time was this notion of the brain trust, where all of the people who had been together in that tight group creatively at the beginning, we institutionalized getting together on a regular basis so that we could watch each other's work in progress and give notes and offer help. And it was always in service of trying to make each other's projects work really well. So that to me is the biggest change that has happened.
This mentality at Pixar, which is, they really do create this space where they try to get rid of a hierarchy and they allow the ideas, room for all the ideas to kind of rise to the top and be heard.
Over time, there's this camaraderie and ability to help one another get the images on the screen and make the films that the directors come up with and conceive of. And there's a very collaborative environment. There's one that is not very hierarchical compared to most places in the industry, and Ed has always pushed for that so that everybody can speak about what's working and not working. That's that constant reinvention Ed was talking about.
It's always full of problems and pitfalls, but that's exciting. This is where we create. It's at every element of what we're doing. If you think of everything as a creation, then the creation of the movies and the telling of the stories happens within this whole environment of change and innovation.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting. So many people are still at Pixar. All of the founders who were there in the early days are still there. And so in that way, everybody's still there, working together and being extraordinarily supportive of each other, and as Lee mentioned, in the brain trust, and very honest with each other. And that's a critical part, and always has been a critical part of how we make films. We've gotten bigger. That has changed. We were super small back then and somewhat naive. We didn't know what we didn't know.
The initial impulse was to tell this story maybe about letting go, or letting go of grief, or letting go of a relationship that caused you pain to hold on to. And it was just an initial impulse, and it was an interesting story to tell. But what I loved about the research that was done and the mindset that went into doing the research is that you guys really wanted the tradition to influence the storytelling. And one of the very first things we came away with was this idea that Dia de Muertos is not about letting go. In fact, it's the complete opposite. It's about maintaining that relationship and holding those stories close to your heart, and that connection lives on because you keep your loved ones, you know, in your heart, in your memory. You invite them in every year, and so at that point, that's really what we wanted to do, is do as much research as we could, so that the foundation of the story was really linked to the foundation of the celebration, which are these themes about family, about passing on the traditions, and about staying connected, and that went into every avenue. That went into the art design. That went into the you know, when we did this research, we were not only looking at, you know, the cempasúchil paths. We weren't just looking at the cemeteries. We were also looking at the families and the way that these traditions are passed down from generation to generation, and the characters we met, and the way they expressed love, and the way they expressed you know, arguments in the family.
I mean, this was a big risk in a lot of ways, to tell a story that was set against such a specific culture, and it was a very musical film, and that was something we hadn't done before. And so, in many ways, it was very difficult and very scary. And as others have pointed out, that's a good place to be. You know, many of us have been at this for a quarter of a century now. And you would think we know what we're doing. And in some regards, we do know what we're doing, but in many regards, we don't. Every new film is just as hard as the last one. I don't care who you are at the studio. I don't care how many Oscars you've won. Starting a new film is very difficult. It can often take a long time to find its legs and figure out what it wants to be. So you just have to leave your ego at the door and be prepared to jump in and you know, forge ahead and do something challenging. I think that's why we all do what we do.
We have so many people at Pixar, in both the technical and the technical artists and the artists in story and the art departments, and they have so many ideas, and there's so many. It's a font of really good ideas, and the deadlines are a great forcing function for all of us, including me, because we would all keep wanting to plus it and keep improving it, and the deadlines help us make the choices in the best way. And you know what, it always goes back to, what was your original gut? You know, you kind of know, and what was your original gut, and what did you originally think about when you first were thinking about whatever particular idea. So, and then I just really try to support all these guys. They are just, and men and women, we have so many amazing people, and I just keep trying to cheerlead them on and bring out the best in what they do.
Early on the first Toy Story, it was less about the influences and more about the team knowing what they didn't want to do. You know, there was a certain rhythm and formula, such as it were, for animated films at the time. And every animated film, even really good ones, seemed to kind of fall into this similar pattern. And I know that John and Andrew Stanton and Pete Docter and Joe Ranft, they wanted to do something different. They wanted to show that animation could be more than just what was being done at the time. And so they made a list of all the things they didn't want to do with Toy Story. But they persevered and pushed, and it was very difficult at times, but ultimately they were allowed to follow their guts and do what felt right to them, even though it was different. And that is what created Toy Story. You know, we want a wide audience, we want adults, we want kids, we want everyone to enjoy the films, and that's a difficult thing to do, but if we have any mandate, it's that.
I will say in the case of George Lucas, for instance, he took a gamble on developing technology when nobody else in the industry would do that for years. And it was really pretty amazing that he would do that. And I watched Steve go through an arc while he invested in us. It was not easy to deal with to begin with, and at the end he became this very good friend. You saw this arc over time. John came in and he was sort of this young kid, and he'd been fired from Disney, and he wouldn't admit it for a long time. But then have
30 years.
Pardon?
For 30 years.
Yeah, a very long time. But in the process, he grew, and what he did was, which is unusual, is he developed other people as directors. All right, that's not the norm in this industry. It's about people making their own films, and he developed other directors. There are also a lot of people that you don't know that were phenomenal. They did amazing things. They were part of making us who we are. And when you make a film, you usually focus on a small number of people. But those who made the film recognize all those others that contributed.
Y bueno, eso fue todo por hoy. Por favor, pónganme en los comentarios cuál es su película favorita de Pixar. La mía personalmente es Ratatouille. No olviden suscribirse, compartir, eso nos ayudaría muchísimo. Regalarnos un like, activar la campanita para que les lleguen notificaciones cada vez que subimos un video. Y para más información sobre cine y fotografía, visitar sumf7.net. Hasta la próxima.